What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Super Coach Experience. We were in here not too long ago until the end of the season, but I thought it's been a while since I've had a star guest on the show, and we've got here the man, the myth, the legend. I wouldn't say it's a man; it's more of an animal. It's the minor premiers, the Penrith Panthers. How are you?
Yeah, look, I wanted to try and cover my face for as long as I could. I'm pretty embarrassed. I'd like to be living in the beaches, maybe Cronulla or something, so I could hide my head in the sand. But all I've got is Panthers mask. So yeah, it's a terrible week for me. It's been a terrible month, a terrible 6 weeks even. But look, some pretty big scores out there, and for our Supercoach Experience team, Jakey went off. He scored 1,600. Gave me a whopping in one of our finals. He's going to overtake me in overall rankings by the end of this round and going into the new round, which is exciting for him. He should be around, I'd imagine probably at least top 200, I'd say. But, maybe at least top 300 at least. But it could be anything. Let's see. It was a big score. He was like 200 points above most decent scores. Like it seemed like if you scored 1,400 this week, you did well. And then there's myself who scored 1,234. So
Timmy, just give us a bit of a background on that score. What went wrong for you in this round? I mean, I think it's important to give context, as we were talking about before the pod, that you're probably going to end up still in the top 500, and I'm sitting in the top 6,000. So it's all about perspective. But obviously got very, very high standards after your triumphant win, and obviously close to going back to back. But what went wrong for you this round?
Yeah, obviously it's really annoying because of, I do set high standards for myself, and I was around the mixed, it was only 6 weeks or 5 weeks ago. I think I was in 21st, and it's just gone. I'll probably be well out of the, I think if I'm in the top 500 still by tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., I'll be very, very lucky. Yeah. What went wrong for me, I guess, is the fact that I would put it down to not just this week, but I really started sprinting the marathon way too early, and I guess I've tripped over many times in this marathon since sprinting too early. I've run out of gas, metaphorically and also literally speaking as well. This round, though, I was sort of pretty shaken pre-round. I was feeling confident going into the round, but just with the news that Tommy Sangster and Wilson dropped on the live show with the Roosters potentially going to be resting match players, it really shook me up. I'm thinking, I had the intention of probably captaining Teddy for the round, but then had to make that switch and bring Latrell onto the left and starting for me with Teddy as my reserve, just in case he wasn't named, so I could shift that around. But it just all went to hell, because then I was kind of like, I came up to the Broncos game and I was like, do I now play Stags? Because what if Manu and Teddy are both rested? I might be forced to play a lot of my weaker options that are like a Pole or a Wishart. Wishart scored 2 this week. So that's really awkward. And so I thought, I'll play Stags. And then I got to, a bit later in the round, and it was like, I'm going to have to not play Mitch Moses, because if I, do play Mitch Moses now, it means I can't play Teddy, Manu, or I can't remember who the other one was, but they seem like better options. And Mitch Moses scored really well. And it was just a complete terrible round for me. Obviously, I went with a pottyish captain, went off going with Hines because I was so far behind in my head-to-heads that I wanted to try and sort of throw some sort of crap at the wall to see if anything stuck, and it didn't. I went with Manu. The Roosters were able to score 72 points, and I wasn't even able to get 72 points out of Manu for Supercoach, so that's unfortunate. How about your week, man? You went a lot better than me, I hear.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the only times I'll get to say that this year. I mean, we were just talking before the pod about, risking it. It was quite a unique game, that Chooks game. I mean, I captained Hines, and, it was always really going to be that way. After watching my Manly side last week, I just thought Hines was in for a big one. So I scored about 1450, but I was very tempted by all the Roosters players, Manu and Teddy, just because I thought they would have put an absolute score on Tigers, and they did. It was just a very unique game with the back rowers. Angus and Matt Butcher will both get onto them. It's, you could not predict that. Anyone that had Matt Butcher plus two
tries.
scores. Yeah, 4 tries.
Any
ridiculous.
player to score 4 tries, like for the Fox to score 4 tries, that's outrageous. You know what I mean? Like, but for Matt Butcher to score 4 tries, that's crazy. I think some people, I don't know whether Timmy Williams had him for a bit there. I don't know whether he'd sold him or whether he still got him, but geez, that would have been handy for him if he still got him.
Well, if you
I
still got
imagine
him,
there's some people with him too.
yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous score, and yeah, I mean, I had some good players come through. I'm obviously not having Latrell. It's still a bit of an issue, but DC actually scored semi decently this week, so they kind of covered it a little bit. I obviously had Harry Grant, which I was happy finally came through with. Obviously had Angus, and whilst I had my pod Dewey, he not come through. Just the rest of my team pretty much scored quite well, and albeit not having that key player. So I mean, I'm quite happy with that score. Again, I'm in the 6,000s. I've my Manly goggles in bringing DC over Latrell, 3 or 4 weeks ago, really set me back. But
don't be hard on yourself, mate. My Penrith goggles, I think I've identified some of my major screw ups throughout this season, and to start the year was probably where I first started with screwing up. But I'm going to do a postseason review on myself once it's all wrapped up, probably about a month after the Super Coach is wrapped up. So I need a breather. I'll go on the Mad Monday with the boys and then sort of do some sort of analysis. But look, I think me sort of being too trusting in Targo and May, and even maybe kick out to some extent, with the halves being out, really hurt me. And even holding on to May and Targo that long, like I was sort of trying to compare it to last season. I'm like, well, I had other guys from the Storm that were killing it, not even killing it, but going okay. And you'd be like, oh, well, it was like Remus Smith. And I'd be like, yeah, you can hold him well enough. But eventually I told him, I was like, yeah, well, there's a time now to upgrade him. And I just was too stubborn with these boys. I just really held on to them, and I could have gone elsewhere. And yeah, that's one of my sort of big blips on the season, I think. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think everyone will be absolutely thrilled to hear your postseason wrap, and I think it's something that as super coaches, that kind of helps you go forward in further seasons. Like I remember one of the big ones for me a couple of weeks back was, I was very stubborn in not bringing in Angus Crichton, and when he was at the Souths, and I was just like, you know what, I don't know whether he has the base. I don't know whether his body's going to hold up to the demand that's being placed on him, because he was really young back then, and ultimately that helped get me down a lot of ranks. So, ever since kind of that season, I've been like, look, if there's someone who's scoring really well and it's kind of clear, it's obvious, like Hines earlier on the season, where you just get him, you kind of got to get him in. And even then, I brought in Hines a bit late this year. So that's one of my big ones. And I think it's always important to write those down and kind of remember, because there is a big gap between the end of the season and the start of next season. You can forget those things, but it's important when you're kicking off the next season to get on that.
Well, the season's certainly not over yet. There's 2 more rounds, so to try and sort of, scrape together some sort of respect from the end of it. But I guess, in hindsight, I think I've learned a lot from this year. It's a bit hard to learn when you win overall. You kind of just sort of going, oh, yeah, sweet, I did everything right. Even though I still made mistakes, but in winning. But this year, with the amount of mistakes I've sort of made, I think I have learned a lot. And I'm pretty excited to sort of get this season over with and start focusing on next year.
Yeah, it's always good to start afresh, and I think as we'll talk throughout this pod about potential people we'll start with next year, it's always good to kind of think about starting afresh and potentially just hitting the ground running with the new season, especially for someone like me. In my ranking, it's definitely something I'm looking at, especially when all the other pod boys are absolutely smashing it. But without further ado, let's kick in to the game recap. So the first game Thursday night was Souths and Panthers. Obviously a fantastic game. Massive props to Penrith for getting through this one under strength and still beating arguably a top 4 side. So the key scorers here from South, Latrell with a 105. Again, there's probably going to be a conversation with him next year of, Teddy, him, and Paps. Who do you go? And I don't think there would have been that conversation at all.
Well, Turbo, will he be back to start the season? You'd imagine he would be too, wouldn't he?
He would be, but he's always in the conversation. But again, the injury thing is a bit of a.
Oh, I think he'll be super cheap, and just from my first thought, that's probably where I'll start. But yeah, we can worry about next season. But yeah.
Yeah, well, add Turbo into that list. But I mean, Latrell's going to be a pod at fullback next year. And if he's in reasonably amount of the form that he's in, he's definitely an option for that top two fullbacks. I mean, I know your Turbos and your Paps are probably a preference if you can get there. But Latrell's definitely an
next
option.
Season's a long way away, though. I kind of feel like maybe because obviously Turbo killed it last year, and then there was that fade off. Even when he was on the field, wasn't so great. It wasn't as amazing, and then obviously the injuries. So maybe with that time off, Turbo does come back, and he's then the new shiny toy. Maybe Latrell fades off because he's put himself all into this year, and the vibe of the going away into America and getting his body right. Maybe that doesn't carry on to next year. Let's hope it does, because when he's playing good footy, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I mean, the good thing about if you're keen on Turbo next season is the fact that Manly aren't making the 8 means there's no qualms about whether they were going to bring him back for the finals and stuff like that. He's going to get the full off season off, to really focus on injury. I mean, again, I said it before, but it's not like this is a recurring thing. He went for a tackle.
Can you get that Manu captain thing off screen? I've had enough of looking at that. I'm sorry to cut you off. Just get that off. Thank you. Let's proceed.
Mate, you're getting sledged in the comments here, Timmy. There's
stuff. No, doesn't blame me.
Aaron says, I played the Villi Army this week and scored 1571, hoping to update 1600. Well, thanks, Aaron, but we don't need that, Timmy. We're trying to make Timmy feel good.
On your Millsy.
And then there's someone said, Todd Carney says, Tim has 2 teams. I think that people are just trolling you, mate. They're trying to kick you when you're down, and I'm not having it. So these comments are off the board.
Tim doesn't have 2 teams. So
yeah. Look, I'm not a fan of this. We're all about positivity here at the Supercoach Experience Sunday night pods with Maxi and Tim. So get the positive comments flowing. So other players we've got Alex Johnson with 99. I know Mikey has him, and that's a masterstroke from him. He's been absolutely fantastic. Cody Walker came through with a 76. I played him. I was a bit concerned about Teddy possibly being out. Like the concern was Cody early. Yeah, and I mean, 76 is good. Again, with the attacking stats he had, you probably asked for a little bit more, but you can't argue about that too much.
No, against Penrith, it's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah. Campbell Graham, 75. Tass with a 74. I know a lot of people have played him, so that was good. I mean, the and from a Penrith side, you kind of had, from the more owned players, you had Liam Martin with a 91, Apasai Coruscant with a 70. I suppose the negatives to this one, Camaro with a 48, not what you would expect up against Penrith after his recent form. I know they were resting him a little bit more than they have previously, and I'd probably try to keep him utilised for the full game because obviously tough opposition, but not what you want to hear there. I suppose a good one to talk about here is kind of hooking combination potentially for next year. Are you one of the ones that's just looking to rip the band-aid off and start with Harry Grant, or is Damien Cook potentially an interest to you? Because I know he was he's an interesting one. He's kind of like that tier below, but he still performs quite well.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I'll probably start with Harry. I didn't start with Harry this year. I started with Reid Marnie, who I'm stuck with. I ended up buying him back, and that's not great. So I think I'll just learn from that lesson, get Harry, and it can't go too wrong for me.
Yeah, I agree too. As someone who didn't start with Harry, even though he was suspended that first game, it's kind of just get.
I think he's still. The play was just to start with him and run your second option.
Yeah, that first game. And I mean, look, your Brian Toller scoring low and Taylor Mays and stuff. I mean, I don't know what price Brian To'o's going to be. I know he's had a couple of fantastic games, but if this type of form continues, he might be really cut price for next year. It might be that kind of premium centre wing that you start with. So that's also another one that I've written down in my notes to have a look at. And just as I say, spread some positivity. Mr. Miller's come back on, said, I loved him. His advice has helped me all year. Thanks heaps, mate. So
thanks, Asa.
there you go.
On you, mate.
All love here.
I can take their anyone's negativity too. That's fine. But I appreciate the positivity. Cheers.
Well done, Anton. Well done. Bringing us on to our next game. Again, this was kind of the week of lopsided scores, and this was the one that kind of kicked it all
Crazy
off.
round, man.
Ridiculous.
Statistically, it's the highest scoring round. They said it ever. Like the highest scoring for points wise, and yeah, most of them they were like one-sided landslides, but then even in some of the other like the Titans for a second, they looked like they were able to compete. But then what about the Knights today as well? I thought they were going to get that one up. That was crazy. But some huge scoring games. And I guess that's why there was some huge scoring Supercoach points as well.
Yeah, and this was no different. I mean, Val Holmes with 118. Yes, it's been favourably scored a little bit, but we've known that for a while. He kind of came through, played really well. Great kind of poddish player in the centre wing, so that came across for those owners. Chad Johnson with the 108. I mean, Scott Drinkwater with 67. I mean, if you're a Drinky owner, you're not that impressed in a 48-point win. 48-point score.
I have VC on him, so pretty disappointed. Yeah.
But I mean, he was coasting that one. Let's be honest. They were well and surely smashing that one. It's probably a one for Drinky to sit back and let the team operate. So and Jeremiah Nanai with a 60. That included a line break try. So not really what you'd want from those guys in such a score, and especially if you brought in Nanai at 700. Odd K's, like kind of a pot after his big score. You're not too impressed with that one. From a Warriors side, not really much to talk about. AFB with a 61, Tohu Harris with a 46. I think it's probably key talking points here that I look at for potentially, and I'm going to identify for the games, just one or two players I'm thinking about starting the season with next year and get the expert's opinion on it. So one of them is Ruben Cotter. I know he'll be pretty much gun price, but these kind of 50s that he's getting, because kind of lowering his average just a little bit. I just think he's as safe as you can get in the second row. We know the second row isn't that peak position it was a couple of years back. Is he someone you'd be strongly looking at to start the season with next year?
Ooh, look, I've got no idea what my starting side is going to be like at the next year, to be fair. I think he's someone I really missed out on this year, and someone I'll definitely have to have a close look at for sure. I think it'll all depend on price and stuff like that, though, and who else, whether I can fit him in. If there might be other people I might be more keen on, and obviously at the start of the season we can't fit them all in with the salary cap.
Yeah, for sure. This
he's a worker. He's got you don't have to worry about him if he's in your side. He's going to do a job even at 56, like on a poorer game. Still not too shabby. Whereas other players where, like for mine, I've got, players that just keep killing me, like Reid Marnie and Stags, never go in there again. Put out 20s like just too consistently. But Cotters with 50s as a bad score, beautiful.
Yeah, safe. He spent half the game looking at Val take kicks, so you can't be too disappointed with that. From a Warriors side, there's not too much in terms of players to start with next year. Obviously, they've got some transfers coming over, and we'll start with that. But one of the ones I've kind of talked about in this pod previously is AFB. If he can, he's on a lot of coin over there, and he's really out of form this year. But he's down at 440k now, and if he can regain some of that form he had the Seals and at the first season at the Warriors, he'd be someone I'd definitely look at in the front row as kind of a mid-priced option to kind of kick off the season. I think there's obviously some things going on with the Warriors this year, but if he can kind of kick into gear next year, I'd be really interested in looking for him. Brings us on to our next game, as you spoke about, the Stags kind of option, and even your Selwyn Cobbos didn't come in. So it was 60 points from Storm, Broncos 12. we were expecting this game to be very close, and it just wasn't. And I've read there's 4 tons in the Storm. Grant with 113, as did Nelson the for Solomona score, and Justin Olam. We had David Noffaluma with 102, Munster with 86, Meany with an 80, Hughes with a 72. From a Broncos perspective, top scorer was Billy Walters with 52, which really said, how poor they played, unfortunately. Selwyn Cobbo with a 28. I want to get your opinion on him briefly. Obviously, he's a massive talent and has potential to score. I think last week he scored a ridiculous amount. Is he someone he's just going to be priced at a level where you can't take that risk early on in the season? I mean, you've been a very loyal owner of him for a long while.
I don't have him anymore, but yeah. I sold him when they did get that in a bit prior to the injury, actually, and got lucky with him sort of being out. And sort of the only reason I sold him was because he was just at such a large price, and I didn't really have anyone else I really wanted to sell. But I think he's definitely a target for next year. He might, you can always start with one gun center winger, maybe. Maybe he's the guy. Just when you watch him go around, he just looks like he's just something else. Like him and Suwali both just look at their age like they're going to just get even better and better. So yeah, I could consider starting with him next year, but he probably will be very expensive.
Yeah. But one to look at. You said no on Stags, and I think you're absolutely right.
Never go on there again. No, I don't care whether Stags puts on like 4 hat tricks in a row at the start of the season. Everyone's got him. I'm not going there. I'm not going anywhere near him again. I'm done with Stags. I know he got 40. I thought it was only 20, but he updated okay. But 40 still, get out of here. I was sort of forced into playing him out of panic, but still felt a little bit confident because he was going up against Justin Olam, and I do like when he plays against those bigger matchup sort of centers. He sort of likes to try and compete. Which I think he did to some extent, but But yeah, Olam obviously got the best of him.
Yeah, I know. I think he was on my list of no trading in last year, and obviously it kind of kicks into gear with this one. I suppose from another Broncos player, I'm kind of looking at a bit confusing. Lee is Payne Haas with a 40. I mean, he scored 59, 65, 64 in that kind of 40. He was a clear-cut front row forward keeper, and I know the scores aren't going to hurt you too much, but I'm a little bit concerned when you got your IPAPs and your Tarpanay scoring so well that he might be one if you're going with 2 front row forward guns next year that you might not have Payne Haas starting in your first top 3 front row forward. So interesting, but we'll see. Maybe that's just a contract situation.
Maybe it might help his price going low, and I think I probably would start with him just because he's decent. And Tarpany wasn't even killing it until like pretty much just the buy. If you bought him in for that second buy, I think it was maybe the first buy, he's just been killing it since. But if he had started with Tarpany, it would have been terrible. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the form doesn't always roll over from the back end into the start of the next year. So maybe I guess that's where try to look at the trials and see who looks fit and who looks keen, I guess. But I think the interesting thing here to identify is that the Storm look like they're going to keep playing Munster at fullback regardless to whether they name him elsewhere. I think it's crazy. I don't know how they're getting away with that. Like I'm sure they can because they're doing it and no one's really kicking up stink. But like Nelson Asif for someone, Nas, can't say his name. It's too hard. It's got too many syllables. He was playing second row, started in the second row, but named as a prop. And they've had their opportunity to change that an hour beforehand and notify the public of what's going on. And also Munster as well, like named at 6, but played fullback and started in fullback. So it's a bit shifty, I think a little shifty from the start.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it's kind of that's a concern that people have had is the ability to manipulate teams and items of that sort. But I mean, it is kind
of. They can do what they want an hour beforehand, but I think once that hour, once that final team gets named an hour before the kickoff, I think it should be fairly honest for at least for the punters and for many different reasons, and for super coaches.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could have a whole podcast on
Mm,
teams naming. I mean, there's different sports that do it different ways. I mean, I'm obviously I'm over in England at the moment, and Premier League do a squad, and then they just name a full squad, and they named the team an hour before, and it kind of means you don't really know who's projected to start.
mm,
Like it's just a squad, and I don't really like that because there's a lot of names over. Like half the decisions are who's going to start, and I think the good thing about NRL is you kind of even with the teams you kind of have a decent idea because they have that 17 or that 21 team player list.
mm.
But yeah, quite ridiculous. But I mean, going on Munster, in the next
You
two
keep playing
weeks,
at fullback, so not falling for that. Not falling for your smoke or mirrors anymore, Bellamy.
no
So that's a
bellyache.
good thing for owners. That I think he's ideal for in fullback. Didn't kill it as much as we would have liked for a 60 point score line, but yeah, it's a good thing going forward.
Yeah, I mean they play the Roosters and Parramatta, so I don't know how likely of a captaincy option he's going to be. But I mean, you can do worse, and the Storm seem to be kind of relatively fixture proof. So yeah, so I mean, great to have Munster going forward, and even if you've got say a Meany or a Hughes, you're not disappointed there with those scores. I suppose the possible next year question for you is. David Nofaluma, I know he's on loan, but if he gets a permanent deal, um, is he someone that you might consider starting with next year? Base in
Probably
that
not.
Storm attack?
I don't know. Surely he's going to go back, right? You'd think he'd have to. He'd have like Benji and Tim Sheens there. They'd talk him back into sticking loyal to his club. This would be a nice experience for him to sort of, play under a different sort of intense sort of regime of Bellamy. But yeah, I'd imagine he'd go back to the Tigers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they talked Isaiah Paps back into it, yeah, surely they'll be able to do Noffalim. And Noffalim is a very, proud Tiger, but you never know. After being with the Storm and having those
Getting a
60-point
little
wins, it can become
yeah.
very easy to kind of change your view on things. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm just, theoretically, if he's starting,
Speculating at this stage, yeah.
just a bit of speculation.
Yeah.
Buzz Rothfield here on the Supercoach Experience. Um, going into the next game, we've got we've got Parramatta versus Bulldogs. Unfortunately, this sucked for me as a non-Dylan Brown owner. He absolutely carved up with a 134. That was with 2 tries, both of them with kicks. If 1 or 2 of those were with line breaks, I mean, jeez, that could have been an absolute ripper. But even then, it was a fantastic score. Mitch Moses with a 98. The Eels halves carving it up. IPAPS with an 85. Madison with a 79. That included a try and a line break. And really, there's lots of good scores around there. I mean, you look down to even Will Penasini with 59, relatively solid at score. And Sean Lane, I know Mikey's got him with 55. In a game where he doesn't score that try or get that try assist, you're not too discouraged about that. I
And
suppose.
then there's Reid Marnie.
And then there's
All
Reid
the way
Money.
down the second lowest score, only beat
35.
Offie. I can't say his name either. I'll probably need to do some sort
Big
of
Ogden.
speech therapy or so. Yeah, nice work there. Yeah, very good. Yep.
Look, I just went for it. If you say
Yeah,
it confidently,
commitment. Yeah, I was
people
very
understand.
nervous around it. Yep. Could I like it?
Yeah, give us your view on it, Reid Marnie. I just want to know, do you think it's just the fact that he's kind of checked out slightly and he wants to present himself for next year, or it's just he's letting the halves do all the work? Like,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
just
think's
think
going on with him?
he's just a ball distributor. That's the thing, and I've really got sucked into my hairdresser telling me that he was going to go off at some point this year, and so I brought him back even after him disappointing at the start of the season. Didn't learn from that mistake, but geez, I won't be having. He's that second player I won't be touching again. But then again, in saying that, he'll probably move to the Dogs, play a completely different role, run the ball all the time, score a million tries, set a million up, and he'll be the most popular person. I'll be like, nah, not going there. So it's going to probably be a scary year for me next year.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Staying
it'll be
away. I'm haunted by this year. I've got so many haunts.
Yeah,
Skeletons under the bed, mate, from this year.
The Latrell. I mean, I don't know what. I'm a Manly fan. I don't know whether I'm gonna ever have DC back in my squad, so I completely understand. Yeah,
He went all right this week, man.
I know.
Team
I
only
know.
scored 6 points, and he's still managed to get 80 something. So yeah, he's had a rough trot, but that's you got to put that down to Jersey Gate. I think that was just really thrown their season. It's pretty clear to see that now.
Awful stuff. From a Bulldog perspective, you had Maxi with a 60. Obviously, had that line break at the end. Could have been a try assist. So you're not too disappointed. Jacob Krause with a 31, which is good. Kind of keeping his score low. He might be someone you're looking at next year when Bulldogs get their groups with Billy Cacao and Reid Miney come back. So I'm hoping for a couple more 30s from him because we spoke about him previously. He's that guy that he's a talent like not the Suwali level or Selwyn Cobbo level, but he's an absolute talent, and I think he'll be fantastic in years to come. Going on, I didn't make too many notes in this one for place to look for next year. I mean, because they're all going to be relatively expensive. I mean, Reid Marnie was one we've talked about. I mean, Tavita Pangai, I'm going for really low here. With a 30, what's going on with him?
He's really not a thing, is he? Like for what he like the beast that he is, and this like the raw sort of talent and skill that he has, he's really not sort of bringing his best footy forward. I mean, I think the Panthers used him fairly well in the back end of last season when they bought him to an extent, but yeah, it's not been a good year for him.
Yeah, just very weird. From a guy that's supposed to be either gets decent minutes and he gets in second row and he'll get you a 60, or he'll get limited minutes and his PPM's that ridiculous he'll get 60 anyway and just offload a bunch. For his scores, I'm kind of perplexed as to what's going on there.
Yeah, he could be one of the most like untouchable, ruthless players in the NRL if he just wanted to turn that switch on, I think.
But I mean, look, like he's sitting at his average is in the last 5 rounds 33. His overall average is 50. I mean, he's one to watch for next year. I definitely wouldn't start with him, but if he gets him back in form, his price will be really low. You got to have big balls to go there.
Maybe he will have more reason to want to play if he's got better players around him, and it could be a good option for sure. See how he looks in the trials, or maybe even just the back end of this year, the next 2 games, if he picks his attitude up or whatever, or his involvement up.
I'm calling it. You're starting with Reid Marnie and Tavita Pangai next year, Timmy.
I'm definitely not starting with Reid Marnie and definitely not starting with Dags. I'm not even buying them if they score tons week after week. I'm not doing it. If they don't want to see me in the street, I'll hiss, you know what I mean? I'll show them my alpha dominance.
That's why we love you. Next game, lopsided. Lovely as a Seagulls fan. We had the Sharks 40 against Seagulls 6. Nico Hines looked fantastic with a 130. Could have been even more, honestly. One of the cutout balls, I think it was the cutout ball at Ikevalu was just that ball he just throws is just absolutely ridiculous. It's a beauty to see it. Yeah, it doesn't have that loop that Sam Walker's has, but it's just on the spot. I love seeing it. Other scores good. We had Matt Ikevalu with 100, Bryce Hunt with 97, McInnes with a 55.
Did you say McInnes?
McInnes with a 55.
Oh, McInnes. Yeah. Okay, McInnes. Yeah, I thought you meant like McInnes from the Fox commentator, ex-Bulldog. Yeah, I was like, what's his ex-Shark even. I was like, he didn't play. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, no, it's fine.
Came back for the game, Timmy. I suppose I want to talk about, and I really want to talk to you, get your view on this one. Ronaldo Militalo. I'm just out on him. Like the draw is fantastic. It's the way they're playing. It's just not favouring that left side winger spot. He's potentially on my not bringing in ever again list. Like the Stag.
Interesting.
I'm just. There's so many hogs in that team too. And they're obviously playing really well, and they smash my side, so I'm not salty about it. But um, I just, unless they start working back with Talakai, the way they were, I'm just completely out on him.
I'm pretty disappointed with Jesse Ramian's score as well, owning him, both him and Mortalo in the 40s. Nikora, who I had been keen on as well, 71, scored a good score of, I think, 79 last week. So he looks consistent and doing well. But Ikavalu, yeah, scoring that 100. I believe Talakai will be back next week, which I really think might be really benefit Mortalo as well, because Talakai does seem very keen to, he's very generous. Sometimes it looks like he could run over the line and score some of the times himself, and will give the ball for a Mortalo try anyway. So I'm really looking forward to him being back. Hopefully he does get that spot, because he has actually looked all right in that area, filling in for him. So, but yeah, I don't know. Mulatalo is probably going to kill it the next two games. It's pretty juicy matchup. So he's just been going that bad. He's overly due. So he's due for hundreds next week and the week
Let's
after.
hope so. I certainly don't have the trades. I got one left, and I'm not going to be using on him, so I'll just have to keep on playing him. But let's hope that comes to fruition. From a Manly side, again, we spoke about Judge Evans with an 86 in a team that scored 6 points. I'm a bit salty about previous scores, but it's not too bad. Olakawati with a 70 again, looked threatening at times. Obviously had that, I believe that line break assist where he busted about 3 tackles and offloaded Alf. Looking fantastic there. I suppose the key one I want to talk to you about is potentially starting next year is Josh Schuster. I don't know what the situation is with him and Manly. I don't know whether Manly are a bit peeved at him, the fact that they got rid of Foran because he wants to play 6. Now he's not in form.
Yeah.
But he scored 26 and he's been scoring low for a long while. His price has dipped down to 200K with an average overall of 25.1. Now, he's someone, if he starts in that 6th role next year, he's basically a cheapy price. We know what he can do. I'm going to start with him.
Yeah, I think I'll go there too. I think once he's got the jersey and he's got that 6 jersey on, I think he's kind of a bit like, well, I don't have my spot yet. You know what I mean? He seems like he's got a bit of ego there as well. But I just think if he can play his natural running game, run the ball, he looks as dangerous as Fafita sometimes when he runs the ball. Is that you or me? What's going on there? Yeah, and I mean, he's got that, finesse to sort of set up tries. I hope he just, doesn't get too creative with the flick passes like a Lomax does, and just sort of, plays a bit smarter footy. And I think he could kill it. Yeah. It doesn't look great this year, but hopefully he has a good off season and gets fit. He's going to have to, being in the 6.
Yeah, I think injury disruption is really key with him. But hopefully him and Manly can sort it out. I mean, he's an absolute talent, and
Tommy being back will really help him as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like him in the second row, and we've got to remember Andrew Davies going at the end of the year too. So, I mean, whether he's at 12 or he's at 6, I mean, he'll get that 6 jersey because obviously they've moved 4 and on. But depending on other options, I know I've got a good few young halves coming up for Manly, and there may be a case to bring back my favourite player, Cade Cust, after his exceptional season over here in England. But yeah, interesting player, and I think if he's around that price and he's starting, people are going to begin with him. Brings us on to it looks honestly like I don't know what this is. I mean, it looks like a cricket score, 6 for 72. Roosters 72, Tigers 6. Ridiculous game. I mean, Angus Crichton with a 161. I'm so glad after 3 years of being a bit salty after he scored it. I think it was 3 tries when he was at South and he scored 151. That I've got one of his massive scores here. So he scored, looked fantastic. I mean, he was in amongst everything. I mean, probably will start with him next year, if I'm being honest. Other tons, you got Butcher with a 140 with 4 tries. If you scored 4 tries, I mean, for a forward, I would be thinking you would score a bit more than 140, but yes.
Yeah, it's weird how Crichton scored 20 points more than him Like I'm trying to work out how that's happened, but yeah, line break. Okay, he's had more 10 extra points in line breaks, I guess. But I don't know where. Yeah, I don't know where it's all come from. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, he
just
had a line break
accumulated elsewhere.
tries and
Yeah,
stuff. Both of his tries were line break tries too, so it always obviously helps with that kind of stat stuff.
he's got
Tackle
more of
busters
those.
too.
He's like more than doubled Nat Butcher in those hit up eights as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah, it was great. I didn't not owning Angus burnt me again. It burnt me a little bit last year as well. So I think that's another player. I mean, he just started so poorly the start of this year. I think that was just because of had that arm sort of injury he was sort of dealing with and coming off the bench and not getting the minutes, but he's sort of come good in the back end.
Mm. Yeah, no, he's really come to form, and we kind
And
of
the
knew that for
Roosters
him.
look like they're the real deal, man. I'm still think they're going to be in the grand final. I think they'll
They'll
should
go in.
come from like even if they finish in eighth or not seventh, I still think they're going to have to go the hard way about it. But I think that they'll make the grand final for sure.
Yeah, they're looking fantastic just at the right time. They always do. So good on the Roosters. I suppose from a Supercoach perspective, Daniel Tupou with 105. We've kind of really spoken about him before. Base that beast, but I mean, if I'm
Sammy
looking next,
Walker killing it.
Sammy Walker too, 110. I know the one I really wanted to ask you about is Luke Keary. After starting with him, and obviously
He's
was
been
a
looking
really
great,
poor
hasn't he?
start. He's been
The
looking
last couple of
fantastic.
weeks.
Is he on the never again list for you?
No, well, I don't know because I started with him and Sam Walker because I just got my season all back to front. I thought the Roosters were going to kill it to start the season because I had a really easy draw from round 1 to round 10. So I started with both Sammy Walker and Luke Keary, and they just didn't perform, the Roosters. They lost a lot of games and just sort of, they weren't really clicking. And now at the back end of the season, they're doing really well. And particularly Luke Keary's looking ridiculously dangerous. So, I mean, he might be an option as well, but I don't know. It's going to be a tough one next year, just because this year there's been so many options. I think it's going to we'll be pulling our hair apart trying to work out who do we start with next year, just because we have been so sort of blessed with so many players being options for Supercoach. Whereas I feel like in some of the past years, it was just you either had to have this guy and that guy or that guy and that guy. Whereas plethora of different options this year.
Yeah, I mean it's there's so much going on. Especially, I mean, I started with Sammy Walker too in the start of the season, and it's weird. You kind of think the Roosters start off slow or they start off quick, and there's all this
They
back
start off
players that.
slow against easy sides and they start killing it against all the better sides. Obviously, they've played the Tigers this week, which isn't included in the better sides, but they've had a tough run and they've been killing it of late. So, I think they look the real deal. It's going to be also hard. I mean, the Sharks, the Cowboys, and the Panthers, or even chuck the Storm and the Bunnies in there. It's going to be a great final season. I can't wait to move on from Supercoach and just sit back and enjoy footy without having to have failures after failures week after week on my
Oh,
Supercoach.
mate, to all the people listening that aren't in the top 500, don't worry, you're still fantastic. Tim just
No,
has
well, it's just been my last
high
6 weeks
standards
been
for you.
terrible. It's fair. It's fair to say. Like if you
Oh,
go back and have a look at it, I've been scoring about 200 less than the average dog,
it's a
average bear.
seasonal game. It's a
Even
seasonal game. You don't win by having two great weeks. If I top scored two great weeks, I still end up in 6,000. I think I'd be a little bit peeved overall. But I understand, mate, the high standards of our expert here. Yeah, the man, the myth, legend, Tim Moody. One of the ones I want to talk to you about in this one is Joseph Suwali. 36 points in a 72-point drubbing. I'm kind of maybe getting a little bit concerned that he's going to be more of a rocks and diamonds type player than that stable center wing that we might want as a keeper. I think there will be a point in the next year that we will want him to have him in our side just because of the talent. But would you be slightly concerned because of that rocks and diamonds type play that he might not be someone you want to start with?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that in a 72 point shellacking. He's only managed to score 36 odd points because he does take quite a lot of runs from the back, particularly, and he's intense, man. Like, he's so strong for a young fella. I think he's going to be a super coach option for the future for sure. And I think you kind of have to take a little bit of the rocks and diamonds, but I think it'll be more diamonds than rocks going forward for him. Like, I mean, imagine just him having another preseason, how much bigger, and just with age, how much he's going to grow into his body more and stuff. He'll be a beast next year.
Yeah.
He already is a beast.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. And I can't wait until he hits his peak. He's, an absolute talent. Another one to look out for, potentially underpriced, is Adam Dwyer. I know he had some good scores, and obviously brought him in as a pod. But if he scores some more kind of lowish scores, he's going to be averaging. I think his average is going to sit around like the 55, 50. And for a player that we think the Tigers are going to get better into the new season, we know that he kind of everything runs through him, and we're obviously going to get Hastings back too. Maybe look at him if he's named in 5/8, and you want kind of someone that's a mid-priced option because we know that what he can do. Bring us on to we've got 2 more games to go. We've got Dragons and the Titans. Again, quite an interesting game. Dragons played exceptionally well. Ben Hunt, again, has those games where you think he's absolutely $1 million player. Played fantastic. But
how's about that tackle he did on bloody the fullback? What's the young? I always get him confused.
Jaden Campbell.
Jaden Campbell. He was just like the strength of him to in the tackle to be rolling and still keep his just the awareness was ridiculous. It was such a huge play. His hat's got to go. I'll put it to the back.
No.
It keeps coming down and it's sort of like getting in my face, and I'm just trying to let the Masked Singer know that I'm available in the off season if they would consider me.
I'm sure they would, mate. The face of Supercoach right there.
They'll be going, I'm guessing, that no one will know who I am, so they'll never be able to get it right, and I might win the show. I don't know if that's the premise of it, or maybe you just need to be a good singer, which I can't really vouch for. But back onto the game. Fafita looked dangerous.
Fafita looked good again, but 87 with a line break try. And he busted 5 or 6 tackles, I think, in that run. I don't know if I'm going to be starting with him next year unless the Titans can start to play him well.
He's still running too many decoys. Way too many decoys. And I think he looks frustrated. A lot of the time he's kind of like wanting it, or even I've seen a couple of times it'd be like the fourth, like the kick the tackle before the kick, and he'd be just on the side like, this me now. And they'd sort of just go to the left, and he'd just be like, "What do you mean?" And sort of but then when they'd go to him he was looking great with the ball, passing it as well, going with that little Jojo Fafita. Yeah, so I think he's not one we should scratch. I think next year he's probably still a very good option for Supercoach, and let's hope he doesn't score too well in the last couple of rounds, but he probably will. Because they've got easier matchups.
And I mean, if they just figure out, and this has always been our concern with the Titans, and we don't know whether Holbrook's going to stay on or not, but if they just learn how to use him proper ball and use him, he's going to be
Fermor. I mean, he's looking great, man. Like, he looks more dangerous than Fafita, but they seem to favour going to him and giving him that. And he gets that nice early ball. He gets his steam onto it. And Fafita gets a lot of just like they pass it to him when he's like flat-footed, and he's then got to just sort of have a meter to then palm one guy off, and you're like, yes, tackle bust. But then he's not getting the speed up that he needs to be able to really wreak havoc.
Yeah, and he just finds attacking stats. I think that's the thing about Bo Fermor. And when I traded him out, I kind of said a couple of rounds after, I was like, he's a keeper in the center wing, just because he always finds himself amongst the attacking stats. And at worst he's scoring 50s, and he gets these scores like this week where it's a 97, and he's an absolute talent. Great line runner. And yes, we all thought, they're going to go to Fafita a lot more as the season goes on, but they really haven't. So he's one to look at, and I don't know, you could go worse than starting with him as a sole centre wing next year.
Yeah, I wonder they might take the CTW off for him though next year because I don't think he's played there at all
Yeah,
this year.
true. I don't know why they even had him. To be fair, I don't remember why they had it on. Oh no, because he played 2 or 3 games a couple of years back when he was first getting into the Titans squad at centre wing. So yeah, you're right. They'll take it off him.
I think so.
Interesting, very very interesting. So maybe a line through him. Man, I wish Greg Marcy would start consistently. I start with him too.
Jeez, he's looking
Just pass tackle.
killer
Like,
too, isn't he? With those tackle busts today, he was. I liked that game. It was an enjoying game to watch just because it was just sort of nothing to play for, and it was just shenanigans, just a lot of points. I enjoyed it.
yeah, it was a good game, exciting.
Tautau
And
Amon, like he's looking good as well. Like we had big hopes for him at the start of the season, didn't really work out, sort of lost his spot. But since he's come back, he's looking a lot more confident, and I think that'll help him for next year. Just the awkward thing is he's not going to be a really good option price wise next year for us, or maybe he would be, but yeah, he's at 381 now, but he'll probably end up being closer to sort of 450s. Or plus next year with the next couple of games.
yeah, you got to see what the draw is like before you go someone like him. But I think absolutely he's a talent, and it's a shame that didn't happen again. Like your Sammy Walkers and that stuff. Like it didn't happen earlier on the season when we all had him. This looks like a young Anthony Milford out there.
Timing is everything.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's going well. It brings us on to our last game of the week, which was a fantastic one. Amazing comeback from Canberra Raiders. Shout out to Addo. I know he does quite a solid Sunday pod and massive Raiders fan. I mean, they came back. The season's basically on the line here, and they came back from, I think it was 22-6 or 22-0 and came back to win 28-22. So from a high scorers, we had Dan Gaga with an 80, Dominic Young with a 77. From the Raiders, we had Jack White with an 80, Joe Tapane with a 67. Again, I think he probably got an assist or at least a try contribution for one of the last Whiten try.
Who's that?
Joe Tapane. Because he offloaded.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, because I mean, that was a great try. That Papa Lee sort of just had that line break, went through, found Tapane on, and then chucked a pretty bad pass from him, but sort of got it into the direction he needed it to, and then Jackie Boy was able to finish it off. So yeah, their leaders really sort of all stepped up there in that moment. It was a crazy game. I didn't look like they were going to win. I'm thinking, I can't believe they're going to, throw away all their chances of any chance they've got to make the finals against, the weakest side in the competition who have just got, player after player out. But yeah, it was a bit of a interesting game. Good on them for sort of having the strength to sort of lift and come back. I like the matchup between Gay Guy and Chris, both burning each other on the outside for tries, and Gay Guy, probably had one of his better games of the year, I'd say.
Yeah, and I mean, good to see the Knights. I mean, as much as they've had it very, very tough, obviously with the Ponga and stuff news coming out, the fact that they played a pretty decent game, absent of losing that lead. Dominic Young looks fantastic. Edric Lee finds himself amongst the tries all the time. And Texway had a good break. I mean, I know he's not a fantastic, the future star fullback. I think we thought. I mean, not now at least, but still to see them kind of at least give the Raiders a bit of a concern is good to hear. I mean, from a Raiders and a Knights perspective, I'm not really keen on anyone necessarily to start with next year.
What about Mapapaparangi? I just wanted to say his name. But I think he debuted in the centers. He's like
the new center. Yeah. I mean,
he had the Harry High pants going on. He had his jersey tucked in, real like a Harry High. I think they gave him a jersey size too big or something, but he looked pretty lethal and had a bit of pizzazz about his game. So he might be a good cheapie for next year.
It depends. I forget. Do you know, like, say he only starts this game, doesn't start any for the rest of the year. Do they score him? Do they adjust his price so he's not going to be a base cheapie, or is he still going to be a base
I
cheapie?
don't know, but I get the feeling he'd end up being, I'm not 100% certain, but maybe one of
200K,
those
I believe.
180 to 200K. Maybe they
Yeah.
do. Yeah. I'm not a stickler for the all of the preseason rules or those sorts of stuff. I'm more of a player than a and I
don't
guess
know,
you could
mate.
say
It's
yeah,
you
but
and Tommy
yeah, I'm
now.
not really playing well this year.
No. It's you and Tommy now, the faces of Supercoach. You've got to know these things, Timmy.
And my mate Corey Parker.
And your mate Corey Parker, yeah, who disagree with you about Selwyn Cobbo, funnily enough. And look how good Selwyn Cobbo's been. So very,
No,
very,
I
very
don't
good.
think he disagreed that he wasn't a good player. He got it right and said that he
No.
wouldn't start in fullback. And there you
Fullback.
go. Look, he
Yeah,
hasn't even played one game in fullback, has he? I don't think he's played a
No,
game.
he
He's
played.
maybe got
Oh,
one.
he played, but it was only through injury during the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, he's yeah. Anyway, he's quality talent, but that was always good. I look forward to next year's one to see what conversations you have with your boy Corey Parker next year. What preseason tips he's got and what you've got. But anyway, that's a conversation for next year. That brings us to the end of a fantastic episode. Nice little short one. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in, and Timmy, best of luck for the final couple of weeks. I'm sure you'll get back up there, and we'll chat next week in all likelihood.
Yeah. My goal was sort of trying to get into the top 100 and was going 160th going into this round. I think my new goal is going to have to be trying to stay in the top 1,000.
No, mate, you can get back up there, brother. Don't worry.
Oh, look, the Billy Army, look, they're pretty defeated, mate. I've given them an absolute pre-game sort of and post-game sort of. I was very hard on them going into this game. So we've had some terrible, weeks prior. So I was very stern, and then obviously end of the round, I was very harsh on a lot of my players and refrained from calling any of them WGDs, but that's okay.
Did you see there was someone at like a boxing fight or something like that had a sign up with that on? I just think it's become a staple of Aussie sports.
We'll be able to look back on it years, and even Ricky, I'm sure, have a good old. Oh, maybe not. It's a bit sore and sensitive still, but everyone else will be able to look back and enjoy it, and that's all that matters.
One of the stories of the season, and that's for sure. But
gotta love rugby league.
That's why we love rugby league.
Have a good week. Enjoy your Monday, people, and good luck when you check the app tomorrow morning. Hopefully, you've gone up in the rankings and not as far down as myself, and I'm sure no one will be going down as far as me. We'll see. If I'm in top 500 still, I'll do a backflip.
Sounds good. Live show done. Tommy saying start. He's doing a backflip on the live
show. On the live show.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Timmy.
Catch you, bro.
See you, mate.